Hi, and welcome to my EagleTalk. In January of 2010, inspectors with the International Atomic Energy Agency noticed that centrifuges at an Iranian uranium enrichment plant were failing at an unprecedented rate. The cause was a complete mystery, apparently as much to the technicians replacing the centrifuges as to the inspectors observing them. Then, 5 months later, a seemingly unrelated event occurred. A computer security firm in Belarus was called to troubleshoot some computers in Iran that were crashing and rebooting repeatedly. At first, the firm's programmers believed the malicious code on the machines was a simple, routine piece of malware. But as they and other experts around the world investigated, they discovered a mysterious virus of unparalleled complexity. They had soon stumbled upon the world's first digital weapon. For Stuxnet, as it came to be known, was unlike any other virus or worm built before. Rather than simply hijacking targeted computers or stealing information from them, it escaped the digital realm to wreak actual physical destruction on a nuclear facility. Stuxnet was not your average run-of-the-mill computer virus. It was the work of a diabolical genius. It used a skillful rootkit to cloak itself and make it invisible to antivirus software. It used a shrewd zero-day exploit to propagate itself from machine to machine. This exploit attacked a function that was so fundamental to the Windows operating system that it put millions of computers at risk for infection. Exploits are attack code that hackers use to install viruses and other malicious tools on the machines. They take advantage of security vulnerabilities in browser software like Internet Explorer or applications like Adobe PDF Reader to slip a virus or Trojan horse into a system, similar to the way a burglar uses a pry bar to open a window or door to break into your house. The cyber attack against the Iranian centrifuges was not directly aimed at the enrichment plant themselves. Rather, the attackers targeted 4 different companies that were contracted by the Natanz fuel enrichment plant to provide hardware and software to them. Instead of attempting to insert the virus directly, the perpetrators of the attack opted to use an indirect approach, essentially sneaking into the back door. The main Stuxnet file was very large, 500 kilobytes, as opposed to the 10 to 15 kilobytes that cybersecurity analysts typically saw. Even the Conflicker virus, the monster worm that infected more than 6 million machines in the 2012-2014 timeframe, was only 35 kilobytes in size. Any malware larger than this usually just contained a space-hogging image file that accounted for most of the bloat. There was no image file in Stuxnet, no extraneous fat either. As analysts began to pick apart the coding, analysts realized that there was much more complex than anyone had previously seen. The cyber weapon known as Stuxnet was just like a conventional weapon. It had a delivery system, a missile, to deliver a payload. The missile was a way to get the virus onto the network at the Iranian fuel enrichment complex. The payload was what the virus actually did once it was rooted. Analysts say that the payload was first simply monitoring the programmable logic circuitry, or PLCs as they are commonly called. PLCs are industrial controls that allow automation of processes. After Stuxnet learned what the PLCs were doing, the virus began manipulating the PLC codes to change their operation in some way. An attack on a PLC was unprecedented at this time. This just added more layers of complexity to its already complex nature. The attack appeared to be designed to force a change in the speed that the centrifuges spun. First, it would raise the speed abruptly, then lowering it, with the intention of inducing excessive vibrations or distortions that would destroy the centrifuges. This did not happen all at once, and not to all the centrifuges. It appeared that the weapon was intended to not completely shut down Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities, but rather slow them down to give time for sanctions and diplomacy to take effect. Stuxnet was never meant to be a weapon of mass destruction. It was intentionally designed to slow or incapacitate Iran's nuclear program. The goal was achieved as a joint comprehensive plan of action nuclear treaty with Iran was signed in July of 2015, little more than 5 years later. It was still unclear who exactly was behind the attack. It was speculated that this was a joint operation called Operation Olympic Games between the intelligence agencies of the United States, Israel, Germany, France, and other allies. The use of a cyber weapon on this magnitude illustrates just how effective that digital warfare can be. Once the weapon was detonated, not a single loss of life occurred, yet diplomacy was still achieved. According to unverified sources, Operation Olympic Games is such a small part of a much larger mission to infiltrate and compromise Iran and other countries that seek nuclear weapons. The use of a cyber weapon like Stuxnet is not without its own risks. When an engineer working at the Natanz fuel enrichment complex in Iran took his laptop home, unaware that it was compromised with the Stuxnet virus, and connected it to his home internet, the virus was unaware that its environment changed and began replicating itself on the internet. It was subsequently exposed for public dissemination. The Stuxnet virus could be used again, this time by our enemies and against us. Thank you.